Welcome to the Introverted Servant Leader Podcast, a show dedicated to empowering purpose-driven women in corporate leadership to amplify their impact and influence. I'm your host, Sharissa Sebastian Deppen, a leadership and executive coach with over a decade of experience who guides introspective leaders in harmonizing personal aspirations with professional success. In each episode, we'll have thoughtful conversations about leadership, making decisions, embracing growth, and maintaining work-life balance while leading with quiet strength. We're so glad you could join us. Let's redefine leadership together. Let's talk about the importance of disappointments. Nobody likes to chat about disappointments, right? It's not something that we really enjoy. We don't enjoy experiencing it, and we typically view it in a very negative way. But today is all about talking about how we can flip this on its head and make disappointment work for us. Now let's get right to it. What is disappointment? This is defined as feelings of sadness or displeasure caused by feelings of unfulfilled hope and failed expectations. There it is, that word expectations. So many times when I think about all of the disappointments and unmet expectations, it all really revolves around just that, unmet expectations. So I had an expectation of how something was supposed to be or should go. And for whatever reason, things just get off track, right? So it could be maybe an opportunity that we wish for doesn't turn out. Maybe a person we were hoping for doesn't show up or act the way we would like them to. They don't respond in a way that we would like them to. There can be so many different reasons that leaders go through disappointment. And so can we just talk about how tough it is when you're the one in charge and leading a team? I've heard this from so many of my leaders, how it's lonely, right? Sometimes it can be really challenging to navigate this because we often internalize, especially as introverted servant leaders. And it hurts because as servant leaders, you have a heart for other people. If you're listening to this, you probably just really want to do your best. You want to have an impact and you want to be helpful and, just really do the very best that you can when it comes to work and have that impact that you were meant to have. So when you come up with disappointment, of course that's tough, right? And it's very easy for us, again, to internalize it, especially as introverts. So that's something we need to be aware of and also be very careful about. Because as Tony Robbins says, what you focus on expands. So if all you're doing when that disappointment hits is ruminating and spending maybe a little bit longer than is needed on thinking about the disappointment and reflecting on it, but not in a positive way that helps you to really move through it very quickly or move through it effectively, but ruminating in the sense that you're constantly going in the spiral of reliving what it is that caused you that disappointment. Maybe it takes you into a shame spiral, or maybe it takes you into a place where you just don't have very positive thoughts about yourself and the decisions that you made. It can be regret. There's so many things, right, that can happen. But I do want to pause here and mention something that is really important, and that is not to make what you're feeling wrong. Disappointment is just another normal human emotion, right? It's going to happen. It's what you choose to do in those moments of disappointment that's really going to shape you. And so one of the things I like to talk about is your who, right? Who are you? Who are you becoming? Who do you want to be? What is that legacy you want to leave? And how does that relate to how you're showing up today? Because that's really one of the things that's going to help you move through disappointment. Whatever you focus on, if you're focusing on how do I show up in this moment as the best version of myself, knowing that I'm setting an example, right? You're a leader, so you're setting an example for other people around you. It could even be for your kids. So if you're coming from that place of, okay, this is what it is. This is a disappointment. I'm going to feel the feelings. I'm not going to minimize them or anything like this. I'm normal. I'm human. I'm going to go through these emotions. And that's okay. It's okay to feel the disappointment. But at some point in time, you've got to decide and make a decision of, number one, how long are you going to choose to stay in that space? And number two, what is it or how is it that you're going to best move on from that disappointment? So again, going back to what I was saying about the quote from Tony Robbins, what you focus on is going to expand. So if you're focusing on who do I need to be in this moment? What decision do I need to make? How do I need to think about this, maybe in a slightly different way, from a different perspective, to get the most out of the situation, to learn from this, to grow from this, to reassess, right? To think about this through the lens of this is an opportunity rather than this is just a disappointment that's going to stop me in my tracks. How can I see the best in the situation? What can I be grateful for even when things don't go your way? And how can you use it as an opportunity for growth rather than, something that's going to hold you back? So that's what I have for you today. That is so important to understand what disappointment is, to not make it wrong, but to also take an opportunity to really examine who you're being in that moment and choose, because we have so much power when we come to a place of awareness of how we're showing up. We have the power to then make a decision to either change our behavior or to keep going down the track that we're going in at that particular moment. And so making that intentional choice is going to be incredibly important. Again, the question you can ask yourself is, who do I want to be in this moment? How do I want to show up? What decision do I need to make right now that's going to get me back on track or that's going to move me past this? And how can I be grateful in this moment? What learning opportunity can I take from this that's going to help me, help my team, help those around me, and help me stay in that space of being a positive influence and making the decisions that today that I'm going to be proud of tomorrow. I always say to my clients, you always want to make decisions today that your future self is going to thank you for. So with that, I will wrap up here. And what I would like to share with you is just to learn to dance with the disappointment. I know that sounds strange, but I want to put all of this, wrap it up with a bow. And the way to do that is just to think about this. Learn to dance with the disappointment. Ask those questions. Navigate through it in a way that's going to help you move forward and not stay stuck. And so we don't want to fight the disappointment, but learn to dance with it. The other thing you want to do is reset expectations. If you have to reset the expectation that you had that maybe wasn't met, that's an opportunity to do that. Identify the lessons and the good that came out of the situation and move on, knowing that this doesn't change who you are as a leader. You've got this. If you loved this episode and want more, I invite you to check out my TED Talk on the pursuit of happiness in the workplace. You can find it at leadershipmasteryalliance.com/TEDx. The link will be in the show notes below. As a special gift, you can also get my free cheat sheet for the talk, so you can get the key takeaways and have a career full of happiness and joy. That's all for this episode of the Introverted Servant Leader Podcast. I hope you found value in our discussion around leadership for introverted servant-hearted women thriving in the corporate space. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you left a review, subscribed to the show, and shared it with fellow purpose-driven leaders. Your reviews and shares help amplify the influence of introverted leaders worldwide. I look forward to connecting further on the next episode as we continue to redefine wise, compassionate leadership together. Until then, lead with grace, embrace your strength, and remember, your quiet leadership is a force that shapes the world. Take care and stay inspired.